What's up? Welcome to Translators Podcast.
Yes. Another amazing episode for us. And today we're going to be talking about Latino TV writers.
We're going to have TV writers here. And every episode, we do a trivia question based on the theme of our episode. We got our boy Jerry.
El Modifoca, very funny fellow podcaster.
Representing Afro-Latino writers.
Did you get like a degree or like a master's in research?
I'm going to answer yes to all of that.
Okay.
And is that laptop even on?
Oh, it's on.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's on.
All right. I hope you're watching like safe stuff. Nothing.
So let's get to the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
What American TV show had the first all Latinx writers room?
Sorry.
It's not a. Go ahead. You can answer.
Ugly Betty.
No,
But then why did you do that face thing?
because it's a deception.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay. Friends. No, I'm just joking.
Really?
Friends, I
at
don't think
least-
Friends had a Latino on camera.
No.
Much less off camera. I'm going to go with Jane the Virgin.
Good guess.
Good choice. Yeah.
No.
No virgins.
No.
Okay.
The answer is Stars Vida.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have cable, but I know that shit.
Well, you can download the app.
Yeah.
Right. I got that because of power.
Yeah.
Shout out to Stars Vida for having an all Latino
That's pretty
writers
dope.
room.
That's
It's
pretty
much
dope.
less. Having one is like tough right now. So yeah, it's great. So
But on that note, let's start the show.
it's not surprising that when it comes to TV writing, Latinos are underrepresented. According to the Writers Guild of America, as of 2020, only 8.7% of TV writers were Latino, which is too low a number. On the flip side, Latinos make up 33% of Postmates employees who deliver food to TV writers. Wait, is that a real statistic, Jerry?
Give or take. I think it's higher for Uber Eats.
So even if the Postmate thing is not a real statistic, we made it up to spotlight how far Latino writers still need to go to be fairly represented in an actual television writer's room. Unless you're cool with Eva Longoria. Yo, that woman gets all her shows greenlit.
So what you're saying is that Housewife is not desperate.
Eva Hustler Longoria.
Exactly. So if anybody's listening, knows her personally, we need her contact info
yeah.
so we can get her on season 2.
Please. Of course, look, there's always been Latino creators behind the camera. One early example was Emilio El Indio Fernandez, no relation to legendary salsa, house music, and Latin pop singer La India. Jerry, can we play a snippet of her music without getting sued?
No, but I could bust out an acapella version of Vivi lo Nuestro if you want.
No,
you know.
please don't.
It's okay.
Stop that.
Okay.
Anyway, Emilio Fernandez was a writer, actor, and director who was a prominent part of the golden age of Mexican cinema from 1936 to 1956. This was before Edward James Olmos, y'all.
After working as a baker, a diver, a boxer, and an aviator,
Damn, he had more jobs than my pops.
yes, he did, Jerry. Fernandez finally appeared in his first film in 1934. Emilio continued to write and direct, creating popular and critically acclaimed films. His 1944 film, Maria Candelaria, won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. But the most exciting for him, he had an actor brother named Jaime Fernandez.
Wait, hold up. That's my name.
Yes, it is, Jamie. But this Jaime Fernandez had a more impressive IMDb credits.
Wait, what? No. Did he ever play a bodega cashier in Law & Order Special Victims Unit?
Word.
Okay, you got one on them.
Yes. Take that, 1940 Jaime Fernandez.
Can we move on?
Of course. Now, the rise of television in the U.S. sadly didn't see many Latino writers or showrunners. Even successful shows like Chico and the Man and The George Lopez Show had Latinos in front of the camera, but rarely in the writing and production credit. Eventually, though, things started to change. Gloria Calderon Kellett became one of the most successful Latinx showrunners in Hollywood when she adapted Norman Lear's One Day at a Time. Great show, although I never understood why they kept the super a white guy. If there's any character that screams out, "Hire Luis Guzman," it's the super in a Latino sitcom.
When Tanya Sriracha created the Star series, Vida, she hired the first all Latinx writers' room. Vida's success changed the game for the Latinx LGBTQ plus representation on screen.
Let me just add, Mike. Tanya Sriracha also founded the Untitled Latinx Project, which aims to build an entertainment industry where Latino stories are represented authentically.
Oh, thanks, Jerry. You're actually doing a good job.
Good research.
Surprised. Today, Latinos write for all kinds of Hollywood shows, including Selena the Series, Westworld, Queen of the South, Chicago PD, Stranger Things, and more. Any other facts we missed, Jerry?
Shout out to indie comedy darling Julio Torres. He wrote for SNL from 2016 to 2019 before creating his own TV show, Los Spookies, which I've been meaning to see when somebody lends me their HBO password.
I'm borrowing it from someone else.
I'm borrowing it from him.
Anyway, but yes, Julio had a lot of viral sketches when he wrote for SNL. With him there, SNL went from still no Latinos to some new Latinos.
So, on this episode of Translators, we are very excited to have two real-life Latino TV writers here to talk to us about their passion,
Their path.
and their process. So you know how we do. Let's start the show.
Translators!
Off, please. Okay, so again, we're all about the 3 Ps, which is passion, path, and process. What was that first project that you picked up that passion? You know, what was that project where you're like, yo, I love what I want to do?
When I was just like out of college, I made this short film in Nicaragua called El Ladroncito, which was for me incredible because as a Nicaraguan, you realize you're like even a minority among minorities, right? So when you're in the States here, on the East Coast, right, it's all Puerto Rican, Dominican. On the West Coast, it's all Mexican. And, you don't really see your culture represented at all, And so when I went down there and I made this short film in my mother's hometown of Masaya, Nicaragua, it was just meant so much to me, man. We after we finished this short film, it was like a 15-minute thing. We rented out a theater in our little town, and we invited the whole town free of charge to come check it out. And it was just like people put on their Sunday best. They came out to it was beautiful. And for me, that was like it showed me the power of what these projects could really do. And kind of like what I want to do, which is really focus on representation of the people that mean so much to me in my life. So, Nicaraguans, of course, but also Latinos in general. Across the board, and especially like East Coast Latinos who are my brothers and sisters. So
nice. And Dominic, for you, like, when did you figure out your passion and what you wanted to do?
I mean, it was pretty similar. I had a couple of short films, but there was one in particular that was inspired by my weight loss. I had lost 200 pounds, and I was having a rough time kind of reintroducing myself to the industry because, like, when you're working as an actor and, people think they know you and, like you have a certain look, and then all of a sudden you don't look like that anymore. It went from like working to not working. And I had a conversation with my manager one day and she's like, Dominic, I don't feel sorry for you. She's like, you are an incredibly talented writer. She's like, create something for yourself. And I did. I wrote a script that was about a guy who, after extreme weight loss, was scared to have sex with his boyfriend without a shirt. Raised all the money, and we shot it. And I remember being on set day one and seeing everybody, and even though we had a little budget, everybody got paid, and that was really important. And I was like, wow, people are here because, I had the bravery to tell, this story that's specific to me, but that can touch so many. And I was like, I think this is what I want out of think. This is what I want the rest of my life, the trajectory of my career to be, is like telling stories that can inspire, empower, and entertain. So, yeah.
So, do you guys remember the first writing job you got paid for in actual cash? Not like, hey, I owe you. You know what I'm saying? Like favors or some shit. I'll start with Yamin.
Yeah, man, it's this one I got right now. It's been a road, to say the least. But I worked in digital for the majority of my career, always with the dream of finally being a writer, because that's what I wanted to do my entire life. And 20 years later, I got blessed with this opportunity to write for Saladin Patterson and his Wonder Years reboot, and it's been awesome.
I mean, it's been in the past year and a half, so I totally remember it. And yeah, it was. So I have a blind pilot at Hulu, and that was the first check that I got, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm getting paid to like create into my story. it was a very empowering feeling. It took a while to get the check because sometimes Hollywood's a little slow. But
Yamin talking about how you were working in another profession and ended up actually becoming a professional writer. Were you doing a lot of, how did you balance that working a 9 to 5 and then working on your writing stuff? Like, how's that? Because I'm sure a lot of people relate to that. You know what I mean? Trying to, to fulfill their dreams, their creative dreams, but also trying to balance that with like a real job,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's I don't think I actually realized that I was working 2 jobs until I got this gig with the Wonder Years, because when I was working in digital, and I've been blessed too in digital, so I don't want to like make it out to seem that I've been working some other type of job that was unfulfilling in any other way.
Right.
I was doing creative stuff. I was heading up Univision's Flama studio, which was all about bringing Latino voices to the forefront. Mm-hmm. So very blessed in that respect, but still it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And so I'd work this 9 to 5 and I'd get home, and I knew that I needed to like push forward and like do my own writing and try to like really get some pilot scripts in the works. But I'd be exhausted, right? And that is the thing about working 2 jobs. You're exhausted and you just got to fight through it. And I would come home and feel guilty for watching TV. I'd feel guilty for like hanging out with my kids. I felt like I had to like always be on. It wasn't until I got this job and I clocked out for the day. I was like, oh wait, I don't gotta do anything. I'm already writing. This is pretty dope. So yeah, it's not easy. It takes a lot of perseverance to try to do both things. I've just been blessed to finally break through.
And Dominic?
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff, like I did a lot of teaching work in addition to acting and writing. There were days sometimes where I would be in 4 out of 5 boroughs, like teaching, like that where the hustle was non-stop. And I think that hustle prepared me to where I am now, because I'm in a writer's room, but the hustle's still real. Like, you have your own projects in development. You're like, you're working. The writer's room is still very much a full-time 9 to 5, but then it's also like, you don't stop once you clock out the writer's room. You have to figure out, okay, I have this for something else, or this for that, or like there's an idea that somebody wants to meet with. So it never stops.
You guys are currently doing your writing stuff, and obviously a lot of times you're looking for advice and feedback. What is one of your best feedback, either negative or positive, that you guys can remember that really helped you?
You got to live life, and that's such an important thing as a writer. Is you have to like really live life, right? A lot of the times, because you tend to write somewhat what obviously, talented writers can always, expand upon that, but your characters are kind of a reflection of your experiences in this world. And if your characters aren't making active choices, if your characters aren't being that thing that's driving a story forward, it's not going to be an interesting story. So something that's very important is finding yourself, as a creative, starting to make those decisions, starting to, experience those things in life that allows you to enrich all of your scripts.
That's interesting you say that. There's going to be a lot of like, have life experiences, but because of this pandemic, there's gonna be like the last 2 years, people just been at home. It's gonna be a lot of like mundane scripts in the next year or so. Just like, oh wow, like I haven't really like done anything like in the last.
The killer air fryer.
What am I gonna write about? Yeah.
The espresso maker.
But I really do think, at least for me, like I think, because oftentimes a lot of, in this pandemic, we had time alone.
Yeah.
So it's that really kind of getting to know yourself is that makes for great material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, you can find some jewels in there,
Dominic, you have such an impressive resume when it comes to acting. Power, Mr. Robot, Southpaw, to name a few. There's a lot of them. How has your acting experience helped you in the writing process?
That's a good question. I think the fact that I know story you know, and this goes back to writing like I was always learning. Um, you know, I was the type of person who, when I went to go see a play that wasn't very good, I was in my head figuring out how to fix it. What were the flaws? What could have they had done? And I've always had that mind. When I was an actor, or you know, when I'm acting, I was always, when I could be in Video Village, when I can't watch it. And I was always experiencing, like, learning. It never just kind of was the dude who like showed up, you know, and then was out.
So, you know, some writers have a specific skill set, right? You know, like this guy's good. Like, for instance, I would say I'm better at writing, you know, jokes than structure. So I'm really always trying to get my structure like on point. Mike's not a good speller, so that's what he has to work on.
I'm great at that. People can relate to that. The people who can't spell can relate.
Do you recommend like just being really good at what you're good at as a writer, or just try to continue to be a complete writer as much as you can, and just, you know, keep developing your all around game, basically?
Yeah. I feel like I'm always learning. Like, I came into it, you know, on the side of like theater and short films, and it's just like I didn't know anything about TV, so I took TV writing classes, you know, and like one of the things that kind of got me eventually repped, and I turned a script that I originally conceived as a short form series that people were like, yo, you should develop this, you know, as a television show. And then, you know, so I was like, all right, well, people are telling me if it was more than two people, I was like, okay, there's something here. Then I study that, figure out what the structure of a half hour is, what the structure of an hour is, because if you don't know, you got to know. And it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I've never been in a writer's room.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a class that's operating like a writer's room. And, you know, you always learn. I mean, I learn every day in my room, you know.
Yeah, that's why I asked that, you know, because I've heard from writers' rooms where it's like, yeah, this guy's our joke guy, right? And we always go to him for like the punch ups, and then we have a really good like story guy, and I guess I was curious if there are labels in the writers' rooms that you currently work at, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, man, there's definitely people who excel in certain areas at the writers' room, right? I mean, like. And that's okay, and that's awesome, right? That's kind of what you want, right? You want a diverse writers' room where people are bringing different perspectives to it. I mean, we have people that have been working for 20 years in the industry in our writers' room, and they're amazing at structure. I mean, like it's incredible watching what they can do and where the story all like materializes from. You know, it's amazing. And so, like Dominic, I've been learning a ton, right? Yeah. And then you have some dudes that are just like so naturally, effortlessly funny, right? And that's amazing. And I know, for example, myself, like I'm never going to be the funniest person in the room, and that's cool. And I think that's one of the things that you have to learn as a young writer, or be okay with as a young writer. You don't have to fight to be the funniest dude in the room, the best dude in the room. You got to learn, right? You got to come into this room and understand what it is that you do well, and try to bring that into the mix.
You two currently are in writers' rooms. Can you briefly tell us like how the path that you got there? Are there any stories as far as like when you ended up getting your current position?
So this writer's room, I always said this was divine. This was the writer's room that was for me. You know, I have been developing television for about a year, and I always wanted to be in a writer's room, but I wanted to be really specific about the writer's room that I was in. I didn't want to just be on any random show. I wanted to be involved in a show that I felt really taught something, as well as was entertaining, that really was just something special that I feel like could move the needle forward. And then one day I had an interview for the show that I'm on now, called Pink Marine. And so I hosted something for a producer that I didn't know, but I was just like, oh, well, maybe one day down the road. And he just happened to be one of the producers, but I didn't know him well. And my manager contacted him, got him the script, and they were like, oh, we're looking for writers now. He loved the script, so he went to bat for me there. I met the showrunner eventually. The showrunner loved me. Then I met the guy who the show was based around. He loved me. And then it was a series of meetings that, now I'm here. There in the room.
Yeah, my story is similarly serendipitous, right? I've been trying to break into the industry for 20 years, and I was convinced multiple times when I tried to get writers gigs, previously that, no, this is the show. They're like, I want this show, right? And then, I had been working as an exec over at Deepak Chopra's company for a while, a couple years ago, and it was at that time that they announced the Wonder Years, and I don't know what it was about that show. I loved it growing up. The style of the show was very similar to one of my favorite original pilots that I had written. And so there's something about it. I was like, this is the one I want. Like, without a doubt, this is the one I'm going to bat for. And my managers, it just so happened, and I think this is the part of the serendipitous element of the industry that doesn't get talked about as much, is that it's really about connections, right? So my managers in this case, whereas they previously didn't have as close connections to other showrunners, happened to know this showrunner personally, right? And so I was able to get a meeting, and it just so happened that this showrunner, Saladin Patterson, is he's an awesome dude that's just like trying to be out there and give people shots, and he decided that I was worth a shot, and the rest is history, I guess.
Is there, specifically for Yamin, is there any extra added pressure as a writer trying to live up to, like, doing a show that there was an original version that people loved, was beloved? Is your writer's room, do you feel writers feel they have to live up kind of to the original version of the show? Or did it feel like that initially when you first started?
That's a great question. I think there has been a lot of expectations of that, especially when you look around in the media and you see kind of people's general reaction to it, and why they got to make a new Wonder Years. But what I think Saladin did that was so smart is that he made sure that this was more of a reimagining of the Wonder Years. We weren't trying to tell the same story. Mm-hmm. So I think right there the pressure's already off. What we're trying to do is share another perspective of the same year, 1968, in a segregated America, where you get to see how the other half lived, and how the experiences in America were not just Kevin Arnold's experiences, but also the experiences of Black people from the South who were going through a completely different thing. And so when we're doing this reimagining, I think there's a lot less pressure, because we're getting to tell stories that are sometimes inspired by the original, but go in a completely different direction. We have that freedom to do that because of this.
Nice. And Dominic, you recently posted on your Instagram that the executive producer of your upcoming Netflix show, Pink Marine, who just happens to be producing legend Norman Lear, name dropping, he dropped by your writer's room. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And what does Norman Lear say to you in a writer's meeting? That's just seems so surreal.
It is very surreal. I cried like a 3-year-old baby. Just because when I say I was intentional, if you look at the Norman Lear canon, do you know what I'm saying? All in the Family, Jefferson's Facts of Life, more than one that he was, but so much of what he did was about something that moved the needle forward. He was talking about stuff that nobody was talking about 40 years ago. And it's just an honor to be a part of something that has his name on it. To hear him, literally, it was a Zoom thing, but you could feel his presence, the energy change. This man is on another vibrational frequency, and I think that's part of the reason why he's been able to do the work that he's done, because it's about something bigger. And I think, this show, Pink Marine, is about a closeted a kid who, pre-Don't Ask, Don't Tell, joins the Marines with his best friend. And it's just having to kind of hold back, the core of who you are. And yeah, it speaks to everything that I believe in. And yeah, it's just, when I met him, I just was like,
Did you like stop sharing your screen for a second and just like, okay, let me take my camera out. Let me take my camera out for just a second.
No, not because he's so giving.
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
he like, yeah, and it was like the week after they just did the Facts of Life live show, and I mean, the first word out of his mouth on that special was like "fuck something."
Yeah.
It's like, he's gangsta, and it's just no, it's there's no pressure, because kind of going back to what you had asked, Yamin, about the advice. If I had to answer that, I would just want people to know that they're worthy, and that was something like in that first week, or, is I'm worthy to be in this room. I have just as much to offer than anybody else. It doesn't matter like how many years you've been writing in TV, like you were there for a reason, and like you got to honor that, So I think if anything, what being in a Norman Lear, room has taught me is that I'm worthy, and just as worthy as anybody else.
So what kind of obstacles have you encountered in your career? And were any of these obstacles related to you being Latino? Like, did you feel maybe, some type of imposter syndrome, specifically, being a Latino in a space where, still has a low percentage of Latino writers right now in the Hollywood TV writing room?
I mean, imposter syndrome is very real. It is. It exists. I'm the only Latino person in my writer's room. And it's easy to, if you choose to kind of negative spiral and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's why it's so important to trust yourself, to trust who you are, to know you're worthy, to go in there and fight for story, fight for your characters, speak up. I think oftentimes people, from what I've been told, people are like, I don't know what to say. I made a promise to myself when I got this job, is that I'm not gonna give a fuck. Like, I'm there for a reason. Like, this man chose me, and we have 3 Latino, Latinx series regulars on it. And it's my job to advocate for story, for representation for those characters, because those characters, like, there's a character that I created that wasn't in the pilot, that was brought, that is not potentially going to change somebody's life. So it is my job to go there and go to bat. And that's what everybody's doing. But when I'm in the room, I don't have time to spiral or in self-doubt. So it's just, it is, and it's a ritual. Like, people laugh at me. I have my incense going in the writer's room. Crystals, I got my little scent. I'll be pulling cards.
Do you have kombucha in your writer's room, or is that just Yamin?
Yeah. Well, you take the kombucha, you mean?
Yamin, have you had any kombucha-related obstacles that you've dealt with?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't drink kombucha.
No, but have you dealt with any kind of, being a Latino in the trying to be a writer in Hollywood? Any obstacles there?
Oh yeah, man. It's that's why we created East Philly B, right? I was leaving NYU. I'd gone to NYU for grad school, and I was leaving NYU, and I was just seeing the absolute scarcity of Latino stories out there, especially East Coast Latino stories, right? So things that I could relate to growing up in Brooklyn, and the type of people that like I chilled and considered my family. Just, you couldn't see it. And it's hilarious because we created East Philly B in order to, show that our community had skills, to show that our community had stories that were worth telling. And then we went out to market with it, and the initial reactions were hilarious because it's not Mexican enough. Right off the bat, it's not Mexican enough, right? Then it's not Latino enough, right? Then it's not mainstream enough, right? As if like mainstream people couldn't relate to these stories, when in reality, the stories we're telling are legit. They're just New York stories. Right? We just happen to be Latino. We're not speaking Spanish. And we did that consciously, We have Spanish here and there, but, we consciously were like, this is a English show because this is the way that I grew up, speaking English with Puerto Ricans, with Dominicans, with Haitians, with Asians, everybody from the hood. And, it's crazy when you hear, the feedback is that it's not Latino enough because, I'm Latino. My brothers are Latino who are in this show. Like, we are Latino. This is our story. So that was an interesting obstacle. And I think it speaks to the need for representation, not just in the writers' rooms, but in the exec rooms as well. Because the only reason why we were able to eventually sell East Willie B to ABC was because we had Latinos in the pitch meeting who understood the story, who were able to say to the higher up execs that, yo, this is something that we should check out. This is something we should give it a shot. And that's why it's just so important that we get representation on that business side as well, not just on the creative side. So yeah.
What is your routine that kind of gets your kind of creative writing juices flowing, right? You know what I mean? I mean, writers always procrastinate. That's kind of like the stereotype, but it's real. But do you prefer writing late at night? Are you a morning person? Do you like to go to your local Starbucks and, you know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of gets your creative Hugo, right? Going?
I say now, the writer's room that I'm involved in is virtual, and we're on LA hours. So it's like 1 to 7, 8. So everything that I do, for the most part, for my own projects, I have to take care of in the morning. Because after spending 7 hours on Zoom, I'm beat. That Zoom fatigue is real. It's waking up, it's working out, it's giving yourself the permission to write, and allow it to be whatever it's going to be. It's challenging sometimes with deadlines, but you have to be able to, it'll get done when it gets done. And it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's straight up. Some of the hardest creative moments are when you're trying to force it, right? And it's like Dominic, I work LA hours in New York, so I'm working 1 to 8, and the only time that I have is the morning. So you got to create a routine. That's important for me, is creating a routine to try to write. And I'm a big advocate of just throwing diarrhea on a page, because some days you're not going to create good work, and it's just about maintaining that routine of, hey, I'm just going to sit down and create garbage. If that's what it's going to take today. And you'd be surprised that sometimes you sit down and you start creating something that you hate, and there's just like a little gem in there, one sentence that'll turn into a bigger idea that you can really polish. And it's about trusting yourself to not be perfect, right? And I think it goes back to what Dominic said earlier about worthiness, right? You got to really believe that you are a writer that has stuff to say, and that eventually, despite the muddled, cacophony in your head, there's going to be something that pops out that you really love, and that it's going to resonate with people. And so, I mean, for me, I would say that, working out is big for me as well. I like to run, and a lot of creative stuff come, on my runs when I'm like, I can't think because I'm so winded or so in pain and stuff. And for something about that, opens up creative, because I just allow things to flow, and then I'll get one idea, one little seed, and you come home and you jot it down and you try to polish it.
Jamie's more of a speed walker. So that process.
No, I was gonna say I'm a bath guy. I get these. Look, I ain't going front. I like the bath.
You take baths? You wait, legit take baths though?
I legit take baths.
Bubble baths.
Not
really?
Bubble baths. Relax. I get the water's already in there. You go in there, and my mind works there. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I read there.
Scented candles.
I try not to to wet the Kindle. Yeah. But a lot of times I get ideas there. I like.
It's all cucumber and melon.
Why do you sound like you're trying to defend yourself?
Well, because you guys always make fun of me for that. But
I got your back. I got your back. I'm a big bath guy too.
Thank you, Dominic.
Dominic, if you want to start a group with Jamie, like the Bath Writers group,
the Bath Writers group, we're gonna start a Facebook group.
Yeah. Final question. We started off the show on our monologue talking about there's such a low percentage of TV Latino writers. One, what's your opinion? Why? And two, for up and coming aspiring TV writers, what is some advice for them trying to break through?
Going back to what Yamin says, there needs to be more of us, I feel, on the creative level, not just the creative level, but the executive level, the agency level, the management level, because it's so hard. It is. It's fucking it's real out in these streets. It is so hard. My manager now on the literary end, she's a Latina from Brooklyn. She called me after reading my script. I had a script that ended up on the blacklist. She was one of the first people to call me. She's like, "You're gonna meet with other people, but you're gonna sign with me." And I was like, "It's crazy."
That's confidence.
I felt like a girl, you know, at the club would do was pushing on, but like she was right because she understood my level in a way that nobody else did, and the way that she goes to bat for me is so hardcore that I have absolute trust in her. She's one of like 5 Latino managers I know. On the agency side, I don't have any Latino Latinx agents. I have 2 white agents, an Asian agent, a black agent, but it's just like, where are they? Like, I don't even know if they exist at my agency right now. And that's sad. So we need to be on all levels of this industry because that's really how shit gets done. That's how I got an agent. I ended up on the Latinx list. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where it's just like people need, like, it's like holding the door open. And I have been very fortunate to have people hold the door open for me, and that's why I continue to hold the door open for other people. So that's the only way.
Make room in that tub, Jamie.
Maybe.
I got a big tub, Jamie. So.
I'm outgrowing my tub. I'm a little like, I feel like Tom Hanks in Big when I'm in my tub. But
oh my God, Yamin, what about you, bro?
So yeah, as Dominic said, we gotta have people that really believe in that mission, that come from the backgrounds that we come from, that can understand and see when our writing and know that it's stories worth telling. My managers are 2 black women who I think, very similar to what Dominic experienced, were people who finally got my voice, right? And before believe it or not, like after I sold East Willie B, I could not get an agent to save my life. Couldn't get an agent to save my life. It was crazy, because they would be like, all right, well, show us your pilot, and I would show them the pilot, and they were like, we don't understand this. Legit, this is that is a comment that I got, is like, we don't understand this, but we love your writing and stay in touch, right? It's incredible. And then these 2 black women read it and they understood it, and they're like, yeah, of course, we'll rep you. And then they stand by your side, and they're putting you into the rooms that matter, for people that will understand it, and eventually something happens, right? And I think in terms of like a young writer, again, like going back to, because what Dominic said is just like so on point with regards to worthiness. It's like, you have to believe in your vision and understand that your voice is worth something, right? Just because someone doesn't get it or tells you to your face they don't get it doesn't mean that you're writing nonsense. Doesn't mean that you're writing something that's not worth being on screen. It just means that it's not the right audience, right? And you'll find the right audience. Like, persevere, like really believe in your vision, believe in your voice, and get it to the right people. And eventually that thing's going to click. I promise. But you got to be your number 1 supporter from the start to the end.
And you got to believe it. Can I jump in real quick? You got to believe in it even when everything in the world is telling you not to. You got to believe in it when you got $237 in your bank account.
Facts.
Like, that's how real it is. Like, because like, no matter what I ever went through in my life, there was always this hardcore faith that no matter what, it was going to work out, and it's going to work out. And like, yeah, because that's what gets you by. Because the shit it's real. It's fucked up. Like, you're going to go through hard times. You're going to get rejected. The same script that got me on the blacklist got fucking rejected 500,000 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is stuff writers need to hear. A lot of writers get discouraged, right? Because rejection, you get a lot of rejection in the creative entertainment business in general, like from actors and Dominic knows this too as an actor. There's rejection there, writers, directors. So you gotta deal with the rejection. You gotta persevere through that.
It gets dark, and there. I mean, I on 100%, like on the real, I was about to give up writing before I got this job. Right? I had been, I have 2 young daughters. I got to provide for them. I had a steady job, like I was earning money, and there was part of me that was like, this writing thing has got to end, right? This dream that I've had my entire life that is not making me money has got to end. I've got to focus on the thing that just sustains my family, and that's legit. But there's something about my personality I just could not kill with regards to like wanting to be a creative, and so I was on the verge of quitting until this job miraculously came together. And I know other artists who were involved in East Willie B, other friends who were on the verge. They were at their darkest moment before the thing clicked, And I think you gotta, like Dominic said, you gotta really just believe, even through the darkest times, that you are worth it, that you got something, and one day, man, that thing is gonna happen.
Thank you so much for being part of the show. How can our listeners and viewers find you on social media?
I'm very easy. It's just at my name, Dominic Colon.
Yeah. At Y Segal on Instagram.
Okay.
Soon to be Beanie.
Oh, God.
Beanie Segal.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That was another great episode of The Translators. Okay.
Yes.
We want to thank our guest, Dominic Colon.
And Yamin Segal. And Jerry for, doing amazing research and that question.
We love Jerry. We love Jerry. And of course, at the end of every Translator show, we like to drink from our personalized coffee mugs. Ow, not too hard. This costs a lot of money.
Inspired.
What, the cup?
Oh, what's in there?
Oh, yeah, this is bad.